But it is always a treat when we have learned, scholarly people in studio talking about chronicling and documenting our island's rich history as well as our culture. And I have two friends of mine, Victoria. Hafaday, Lola. Good to see you. And Brenda. Hafaday.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, well, let's get right into the meat of the discussion because I cannot wait, Vicky, to talk about this wonderful book that is now in print. A labor of love, to be certain.
Absolutely. So this coming Monday, a week from today, at the Sheraton on June 19th, we will be launching the third in a trilogy of war survivor stories by the Guam War Survivors Memorial Foundation. And this third and last book in the trilogy is called Legacy Beyond Faces, a sentimental journey generation to generation. And it really pays tribute to a unique aspect of the war and to a unique aspect of our war survivors' experience during the war, which is music. So many of the songs that got people through the war and many of the ways in which people were able to endure their situations was to use song to either uplift themselves, to use song in faith, or to use song, you know, to make fun of the occupiers. So song was music and songs were really an important part of the war. And I learned a lot of this because I had the unique privilege and honor of editing the stories in this collection. So it features the stories of 24 different survivors. It also features writing by descendants of war survivors and also local scholars who really analyze the value and the role of music during the war, but also after the war. So many of our war survivors' children have really become some of the most talented and incredible musicians in our community. And so it also features the stories of these musical families that kind of coming out of the war, everybody in the family learned how to play music and started all these really great bands that have led to bands that we still enjoy today.
Yeah, and they certainly have not forgotten, you know, what is now to them maybe a form of entertainment, maybe like a way to make a living and everything like that. As you so eloquently stated just moments ago, for a generation, maybe even two or three that came before us, this was a way that they were able to express grief and pain and cope. And, you know, like you said, I mean, there was a political message, you know, they were actually taking pot shots at the enemy.
Exactly.
That is amazing. Just the emotion that goes behind that. And I must say, Victoria, that is a very healthy tome of information because how many pages is that book? There's a lot of information.
There's a lot.
Yeah, a couple hundred pages at least to be looked at.
And they're very beautifully laid out. The nice thing too is that it features pictures of the survivors and then their families. So you see the faces of our survivors, and then you also see who their relatives are, and we recognize people from our community, and this message of legacy, right? That when we know these stories and we know the legacy of our people, it really roots us in something deeper. And I think this whole trilogy of books does that. You know, for many years, these stories weren't shared, and the Guam War Survivors Memorial Foundation really wanted to, you know, document these stories so that they can be shared and they can live on, because every day our war survivors are passing. It's been, you know, over 70 years since the end of the war. And so
I was just going to say, Brenda, because from most of us Guamanians right now, we're only 2, maybe 3 generations removed from that period of our, you know, our relatives, our ancestors and everything. So what was the emotional journey that you went through, you know, finding out what these people, you know, were basically telling you firsthand?
Well, I think for me it was just being able to hear my own father's story for the first time. My mother was the musician. She was the piano player, and unfortunately she didn't get to share her story with us before she passed away. But my father could give us bits and pieces and then his own story. But growing up, what they encouraged my sisters and I to do was sing and play. And so the legacy that Victoria talks about was my sisters had the first all-girls band that started in 1964, and they kind of whooped some butts in the island battle of the bands. So when they started playing, they actually were recognized for, you know, at least launching music for women with instruments.
Now, I'd like everybody watching this right now, online and on TV, to know when this book comes out on Monday, how can they get their hands on a copy of it? How can they find out more? You know, talk to the people who put it behind it, because it's not just the images and the words on paper. I know I've talked to you a bunch of times about this. It's the total experience of learning about this important part of Guam history.
And I'll be happy to share that. So we just want to make sure, though, that we acknowledge through the generosity of Ada's, Coast 360 East West, Linda's Coffee Shop, Whispering Palms, J&G Midpack, the UOG Richard Flores Taitano Mark Center, and then the UOG Press, that they made it possible for us to be able to put this publication together. So on Monday, June 19th at the Sheraton at 6 p.m., we will have the actual book signing. And so we encourage everybody to come and meet the survivors who will be there, as well as the different contributors to the book. They will be able to sign your book, and it's $70 for a book. But if you buy more than one, purchase of 2 or more, it's $55.
Very nice.
And it will be a very nice evening, and cash and check. You know, this is something you want to have on your coffee table.
I was just about to ask. Thank you, thank you. You literally took the words right out of my mouth, because I was going to say, would you classify this as a coffee table book?
It is a coffee table
or one
book.
that, you know, you can have like maybe like a family night or a coffee night, and you just opened up, maybe read one story and then have a discussion amongst, you know, friends.
Definitely. I think it's a very educational coffee table book. So it's beautifully done, like I said, and it's something that you could leave out and anyone could open to any page and experience something right away. But you do want to share it with family, especially for those whose relatives are in here. It's a really nice way to bond with the family. But the event too, I want to point out, is free and open to the public.
Right.
So you know, the books will be for sale, but if you want to just come and meet the war survivors and really, you know, learn more, you're really welcome to be there.
Well, thank you so much for putting this together, because like I said, I mean, it's an amazing way to tell the story that needs to be told, and concentrating on an angle that, you know, is uplifting as well as honest in its emotion. So,
and just one more, if
anybody
prepaid for a book, that is where they'll want to come to pick up their purchase.
Very nice. And bring the whole family down.
Yes,
certainly
please.
This is something you know, young and old have to experience together.
Yes.
Well, thank you both, ladies.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right, please stay tuned, everyone. We are back after this.